Tonight on 24, Trump says he's not afraid of sending troops into Iran.
We take out the nuclear threat from Iran, and we've done that very strongly, very powerfully.
The U.S. president says the United States isn't ready to end military operations against the Islamic Republic yet.
Shah! Shah!
Israel is confident about the killing of Ali Larijani and the Basij chief in Iran. Netanyahu says this incident is an opportunity for the people of Iran.
Long live the Shah! And long live Iran!
And the celebration of Chahar Shanbe Suri in various parts of Iran, Prince Reza Pahlavi called for a peaceful ceremony free from clashes with officers.
From the Iran International Studio, this is 24 with Fardad Farahzad.
Viewers of Iran International and around the world, hello and good evening. The U.S. president said an hour ago that the United States isn't ready to end military operations in Iran yet, but will be pulling out a bit soon. Donald Trump has said most NATO members aren't keen on participating in military action against Iran, even though they agree with preventing it from going nuclear. According to him, Iran's military capability has been severely weakened, and the U.S. doesn't need its allies' help in this war anymore.
To rebuild. But we're not ready to leave yet. But
if we stop the war right now, it would take them at least 10 years just to rebuild. However, we still do not want to stop it. We will absolutely finish the job in the near future. Right now, their forces are completely decimated, no matter how you choose to look at it. Again, I will say we had truly great support from Middle Eastern partner countries, but absolutely no support, basically nothing at all, from our NATO allies so far. For me, Iran is a military operation, something that was mostly over in the first 2 or 3 days because we destroyed their navy almost immediately. Then it was their air force, their anti-air defense the next week. We're flying over Iran right now. We can destroy their power grid within an hour. They can't do anything because we've hit everything. Again, I'll say, they have no radar, no defense, they have nothing. And of course, this was the decision I made. We discussed it with he, with Marco, with JD, all of us. Chris, we talked about it. We can hit their power grid in a few minutes if we want, but, well, they can't do anything about it either. We can hit their oil in Harg. We could have hit their oil. The only thing we didn't hit in Harg was their oil, because that pipeline network is really complex. If we hit those networks, it'll take them forever to rebuild. I mean, whoever's in charge next, I hope they're sane people in charge, and, well, we'll try to get people in there who will turn it into a prosperous, great, and beautiful country. You know, their people are very energetic and smart. It used to be a very successful country, and now it's a country where idiots are in charge. They tell protesters, don't come into the streets or else we'll shoot you.
It's a country where they tell protesters, don't go outside because if you do, we're going to kill you.
At the same time, in Israel, the army spokesperson referring to the killing of the head of Iran's Basij organization said that the elimination of Ghulam Reza Soleimani is considered a severe blow to the Basij's chain of command. According to Kamal Panasi, Israel's attacks on repressive forces will continue at all levels, including checkpoints. Our correspondent Samira Garai is with us from the White House, and Babak Sagi from Tel Aviv. Babak, I'll start with you. Apparently, the Israeli army spokesperson has said some new things. What did he say?
Minutes ago, after Farron, the Israeli army spokesperson, came in front of the camera for a press conference and spoke to the people of Israel. What was important to me, which we hadn't heard throughout the day, was that not only Basij and IRGC targets and checkpoints have been attacked.
اهداف و پست‌های بازرسی بسیج و سپاه مورد حمله قرار گرفته.
This ongoing military process will relentlessly continue, according to the official Israeli army spokesperson, until specific objectives are fully realized. As he emphatically stated, these targeted operations will not cease until no Basij member possesses the capability to carry out any further operation or oppressive activity. The ultimate goal is to persist until the people of Iran can finally take their destiny into their own hands. During the press briefing, one of the reporters pointedly asked him exactly how long these strikes would continue and what was practically expected of the Iranian public. In a carefully measured response, the spokesperson stated, "I cannot dictate to the people of Iran what they should do. However, I can firmly promise them that the Israeli army is creating the necessary conditions for them to come out and change the regime." During the discussion, he was also asked specific questions regarding Mojtaba Khamenei's current situation. He responded by stating that he didn't have precise information about his exact status. However, he noted that the fact that Mojtaba isn't appearing in the media recently might serve as a strong indication of his underlying situation. Alongside this development, a senior Israeli official tells me that Ali Larijani was actively being pursued. He emphasized that Larijani was one of Israel's primary targets, perhaps the most important strategic target, immediately after Supreme Leader Khamenei. But ultimately, and after all the exhaustive investigations, extensive intelligence gathering, and relentless pursuits, this was a truly golden piece of actionable information that successfully reached the Israeli army directly from a courageous Tehran citizen, precisely at the critical moment when a fleeting window of opportunity opened. This highly calculated attack was decisively carried out. Fardad, we should carefully note that a fighter plane taking off from a heavily guarded airbase in Israel successfully navigating hostile airspace to reach Iran and flawlessly hitting that specific high-value target is by no means a simple task. Rather, it is an immensely complex military feat. In Israel, officials proudly say that last night's unprecedented operation was a highly special and historic achievement, and in the near future, the entire world will finally understand exactly how. Alongside that significant development, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's foreign minister, and the Minister of Security and Defense all publicly spoke about this high-profile operation. Emphasizing the strategic victory, the foreign minister provocatively stated that the United States was originally supposed to pay a staggering $10 million bounty for Larijani's head, but the Israeli forces successfully accomplished the mission for free. Furthermore, Benjamin Netanyahu took the opportunity to announce once again that he firmly stands with the oppressed people. He justified these precise targeting actions by describing Larijani as one of the region's biggest gangsters. According to Netanyahu, Larijani not only heavily contributed to widespread regional instability, but was also one of the key individuals who directly issued brutal orders for the violent suppression of innocent people during the protests on the 18th and 19th of day. Let's listen to Netanyahu's remarks today, a small part of it.
This morning, we eliminated Ali Larijani. Ali Larijani is the head of the Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is a gang of gangsters who in fact run Iran. We also eliminated the Basij commander alongside him. These are the assistants of the gangsters who create terror against the people in the streets of Tehran and other cities in Iran. We continue to operate there. We operate by air, with Air Force planes, with drones. We are weakening this regime in the hope of giving the people of Iran an opportunity to remove it. This won't happen all at once. Achieving this won't happen easily, but if we consistently persist in this vital effort, we will truly give them the opportunity to take their future destiny directly into their own hands. At the same time, we are helping our American friends in the Persian Gulf. I spoke in detail about this with President Trump yesterday. There is cooperation between our Air Force and Navy, between me and President Trump and his people.
Samira, President Trump is still highlighting his achievements, claiming we hit all military installations. Remember, when the war started, he told Iranians they would have an opportunity to take control of their government, but internal political pressures are increasing. The director of the National Counterterrorism Center has resigned. Many European partners aren't cooperating, and Democrats remain opposed. Additionally, there is still no clear roadmap about what will ultimately happen to the Islamic Republic system. At least they haven't told the media.
هنوز هم یک نقشه راه روشنی در مورد اینکه آخر سر چه اتفاقی برای نظام جمهوری اسلامی قرار بیفته دست کم به رسانه ها نگفته.
No, Mr. Trump hasn't clarified what his strategy is, but we know what he has in mind isn't over. He repeated this again today during a meeting he had with the Irish Prime Minister, and they also had a press conference together. He said, "We've pushed Iran back 10 years in terms of the progress it had made. Those military attacks the United States carried out, the radar systems, air defenses, naval forces, air forces, Mr. Trump says we destroyed all of them, and he's repeated that many times. But he insists that it is truly not over for us yet, and we still haven't fully achieved exactly what I have in mind. He assures us that it will be over in the near future. At first, well, they were defining this future timeline as like a week later, then a few weeks later, or even 4 to 6 weeks. Now, Mr. Trump says it's happening in the near future. Anyway, there are also ongoing talks here in the mainstream media strongly opposing this war. Specifically, prominent outlets like the New York Times or CNN write critical pieces. Mr. Trump has talked about this perceived bias many times. The Wall Street Journal yesterday had written an editorial asking how it is that only negative news gets covered. These discussions are highly intense among the media right now. And then there's the evident conflict this news creates with what the White House is officially stating. And then the sudden news that came today about this high-profile resignation. It really seems to be fueling all of this ongoing political tension. Part of the discussions these media outlets are having, specifically within the political camp known as MAGA, or recognized as isolationists in foreign policy, revolves around a specific debate. They have brought up this point a lot, arguing that Israel pushed the United States into this war. However, Mr. Trump himself has stated many times over the past 2 weeks that no, it was actually me who firmly took Netanyahu's hand and brought him into this war. Today, adding to this evolving political narrative, a resignation letter was officially published. It belongs to Mr. Joseph Kent, the Chief of Staff for Counterterrorism under the agency that Tulsi Gabbard oversees, the Homeland Security Council. He had written in his resignation letter that Israel dragged us into this war, just like the war with Iraq, where we also went and suffered so many casualties, so much damage because of Israel. Now my conscience doesn't allow me to stand in this war, and the Islamic Republic wasn't a serious threat to us. He published this letter, then he published it there on the social network X. Reactions to it were very numerous. Many came and wrote that it's better you're not in the government. They said your words are anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, because he had specifically pointed the finger of blame at Israel, until Miss Leavitt also came and responded. The White House spokesperson said that when you write that the Islamic Republic isn't considered a serious threat, it's clear you don't understand anything about U.S. national security, and you're questioning Mr. Trump's decision, who is the commander-in-chief. Mr. Trump was asked during a meeting with the Irish Prime Minister. He said, "He seemed like a good guy to me, but when I saw the resignation letter, I saw he's a weak person put in this position." Making matters worse, several informed sources recently came and told Fox News reporters that he was actually one of the individuals who leaked sensitive information and documents. Consequently, these intense discussions are actively happening here now, and overall, it seems this deep conflict of views will inevitably increase even more. But Mr. Trump is specifically standing firm, even though NATO countries completely failed to support that specific coalition he had in mind. It was not just NATO. In a post he published on Truth Social, he pointedly referred to allies like Australia, Japan, and South Korea. He stated they also didn't come forward, exactly like the NATO countries. This week, Ms. Takeshi, the Prime Minister of Japan, is supposed to come here for an official visit, and it is still not entirely clear how Mr. Trump will want to deal with her on Thursday. And he says all of them left us alone. But instead, he enthusiastically named the Gulf monarchies one by one Fardad, and said exactly how much they helped the United States. Bahrain, UAE, Saudi Arabia, all were really great. They helped in protecting the Strait of Hormuz. We just had Anwar Gargash's remarks a few minutes ago. He's one of those who advises on foreign policy in the UAE. He says we are ready to restore security in the Strait of Hormuz. Now all these political discussions are happening, Fardad.
Thank you, Samira Garai at the White House and Babak Sagi from Tel Aviv. The news of Ali Larijani's death has been met with many reactions. In one of the images that has reached us from Iran, a number of citizens in Tehran's Chikar area are expressing happiness upon hearing this news. My colleague Murad Visi has joined us. Murad, many in the West referred to Ali Larijani as someone who could perhaps, at the last minute, mediate between the Islamic Republic and Western parties. Now with his death, what kind of situation awaits the Islamic Republic from now on?
Ali Larijani's death caused the head of that second layer, which existed after Khamenei, to be removed. After Khamenei was killed, well, the main person in the decision-making circle was killed. However, there were 7 or 8 people left from that main decision-making circle. And from the first day of the war until now, it had been 15 days already. No senior official had been killed. It's true that on the first day of the war, Shamkhani was killed, Nasir-Zadeh, Mousavi, Papur, but it had been 15 days already. No senior official had been killed anymore. And the original question was, does Israel simply not have the operational access required, or is there another strategic reason? It became clear the underlying issue was access. Now, by successfully taking out Soleimani, the Basij commander, and an even higher figure, Larijani, I think they've made 2 massively big catches. For those 7 or 8 critical people who are still left, if they also become direct targets for Israel, we can almost say the main decision-making circle in the Islamic Republic will be permanently eliminated. Ahmad Vahidi is the IRGC commander. Ali Abdullahi is the commander of Khatam al-Anbiya headquarters. Ghalibaf is there, who's more of a military commander than a parliament speaker. Eji is the head of the judiciary. Hossein Nejat is the commander of Sarallah headquarters. And Radan is the commander of the police force. I don't really consider Pezeshkian that important in this equation, even though where he is, his title, his position is a high one. Esmail Khatib, the minister of intelligence, and Eskanan Momedi, the minister of interior, are also with a bit of a gap between them. If these guys are eliminated, which, they're being eliminated one by one, we can almost say that Israel has destroyed the main decision-making circle, a method that Israel is pursuing, and I think it will ultimately work. I've called it finishing off the officials of the Islamic Republic. It's taking them out one by one, and no one from the Islamic Republic, no senior officials will remain anymore, whether military or political, and this will definitely be effective in toppling the system. I just an hour ago posted a tweet. I calculated just roughly that 30 top IRGC commanders have been killed in 9 months, meaning Mohammed Bagheri, the chief of staff, was killed. Rashid, the commander of Khatam al-Anbiya headquarters, was killed. Shadmani, the next commander of the headquarters, was killed. Hussein Salami, the IRGC commander, was killed. Papur, the next IRGC commander, was killed. Mehrabi, the deputy intelligence of the general staff, was killed. Rabbani, the deputy operations, was killed. Qasem Soleimani was killed. You look at it, those 30 main IRGC figures who emerged after the war and were said to be the main network of IRGC commanders, Israel has almost eliminated all of them. 2 or 3 people are left.
If your theory is correct, and furthermore, excuse me for interrupting, but if your theory is correct, and if Israel also wants to similarly wipe out the rest of the remnants of the Islamic Republic, the political remnants of the Islamic Republic, what do you think will happen to those loyal military forces who, remain for the regime?
In my opinion, generally, in the Islamic Republic, they're just not ones to surrender, meaning ideologically, these guys won't surrender. My analysis regarding Khamenei and the IRGC commanders was also that. These guys won't surrender. They'll just go forward with his same foolishness and delusion and get killed. The next commanders will also be killed. Then it'll reach a point where, the system will just be abandoned, because they've hid their barracks, they've hid their equipment, they've hid the commanders, they've hid their communications. If it goes a bit further and these main figures are killed, then they're irreplaceable. After a certain point, the people's force will prevail, and these guys will just abandon and flee.
The people's force prevails? How does the people's force prevail over the remaining armed forces?
Look, previously there was a problem, $1 million question about inside the country, which it seems now a solution has largely been found for. And that was the question. So, Israel and the US, they come and they kill the commanders, they kill Khamenei, they destroy the equipment. But that suppression force, the moment people want to go and take over a government institution, they've got weapons in their hands. The motorcycle units are attacking people, and people just can't get past them. The question was, how are people, going to get past this? The moment they rise up, people are empty-handed and they've got weapons. It seems like with this method Israel is using to hit checkpoints, Israel is getting ready for that moment when, the suppression structures are worn out and the commanders are killed and the day of uprising arrives and Prince Reza Pahlavi issues a call. At that moment, it seems like Israel and the US, with the way they're going, especially Israel, their air force, especially their drones and mini drones, will act as the air force for the uprising people, meaning they provide close air support, basically. Both the Americans have the equipment and the Israelis do too, actually. The Israelis, with drones and mini drones, will most likely target the motorcycle units, special units, and the Imam Ali security battalions of the IRGC, if any are left, who are now hiding in parking lots and sports halls and stuff. If they want to come towards the people and kill them like on January 8th, it's highly likely that with this capability Israel is showing in the streets at checkpoints, it will hit the motorcycle units, which are, the basis of the IRGC and Najah's suppression power. The Americans are also showing that they have equipment like this. For example, the American A-10 is basically an aerial cannon, a powerful aerial machine gun. Or, for instance, their Apache helicopters. They're also a powerful aerial machine gun, It seems like I'm specifically talking about the IRGC, the special units, and the suppressors. They can no longer move suppression units between cities in columns like they used to, because any military column that goes on the road, the Israelis will just hit it. And if their motorcycle units, like 30 or 40 of them, want to attack people like in January, my understanding is that with this method Israel is using, the moment people rise up, Israel will provide close air support through mini drones and through drones, and it will dismantle the motorcycle units, which are like the vanguard and the basis of the suppression force. And once the motorcycle suppression units are dismantled, then, it's over.
Thank you for joining. Murad Vaisi. Today, U.S. and Israeli attacks on Islamic Republic positions continued for the 18th day. According to reports, various parts of Iran, especially Tehran, have been targeted by a new wave of attacks, and checkpoints remained among the main targets of these attacks. Also, images of people's presence and gatherings in various parts of Iran for the Chahar Shanbe Suri celebration have been published since an hour ago, and we can, watch some of them together.
Chahar Shanbe Suri.
My colleague, Ali Hossein Ghazizadeh, has joined us from London. Ali Hossein, more and more images are slowly reaching us from various parts of Iran, especially Tehran. We're seeing many such Chaharshanbe Suri gatherings, you know. The Israelis were talking about support. In these past few minutes, they themselves released a statement saying they targeted 10 positions in various parts of Tehran. But it doesn't seem, at least based on the images we've seen so far, to have translated into street demonstrations, you know. If you want to give us an overall picture, what has happened tonight across different cities in Iran then?
Look, regarding what was supposedly going to happen, if there have been any clashes anywhere, it is unfolding exactly as Prince Pahlavi said, you know? If a serious conflict breaks out somewhere and the regime's suppression forces want to shoot at people, get into a fight, or use violent tools, Israeli drones will immediately step in to support the people and target those forces. Right now, we have a few early reports that they've been targeted, but on a very large scale, the suppression forces haven't directly engaged with the crowds just yet. The news we have so far, up until this moment, is that at least no conflict has broken out anywhere between the people and the suppression forces that would lead to their widespread shooting or even their shooting at all. If it does, the drones will get involved, meaning if people want to hold their ceremony right now wherever they want, at home, in the alley, in a garden, I don't know, in the street, if they want to enter an area somewhere and the suppression forces start to act against them, confronting them with violence, that's definitely one of those places where these drones will get involved. But if this conflict doesn't happen, meaning people decide to go, say, to a garden or somewhere else to hold their event, and their event is held there at the same level we've seen on other nights, then these centers will be targeted. The main plan for these drones tonight is to support people in holding their Chahar Shanbe Suri ceremony wherever people want to be present, provided that they don't go towards government institutions. Meaning, if they want to enter a street, the suppression forces can't stop them. If they do stop them, Israeli drones will step in.
How much do you think these drones, this aerial support, have the capacity to significantly weaken the suppression forces on the ground, enough so that protesters can feel relatively at ease? After all, we know we're not talking about Brussels, we're talking about Iran, where the suppression forces are heavy, but how much can it provide that space, at least enough for them to go to the streets with relative peace of mind?
Look, if there's going to be a call issued for people to widely go to the streets, this, in terms of the force that's now going to provide support from above, needs to happen within a certain time frame. So, in a way, instead of, say, targeting several thousand checkpoints over 3 days, they'll gradually target fewer numbers over a longer period, in such a way that they force a part of the suppression force to flee, to wear them down. You know, meaning you go and hit some and force others to abandon their posts. This method naturally has fewer human casualties, and it's more humane too, you know, meaning you also give the suppression forces a chance to escape. A few days ago, they told the suppression forces that we're going to hit your checkpoints in the streets, and this has started now and continues every day. And if a suppression force member wants to separate themselves from the structure and escape, they need some time to find an opportunity to free themselves and their family from the firing line of those higher up commanders. This time needs to be given to these forces who, right now, among those who are forced to participate in these checkpoints, potentially know that, there's a high probability they could potentially become drone targets. So they need some time to be able to do this. This method that's been chosen, for example, they select and hit several tens of targets a day and continue this over a long period. This gives the suppression force time to lose some of its personnel, and at the same time, it gives people time to adapt themselves to the conditions that are gradually being prepared for that final call to come to the streets and take action.
Thank you, Ali Hussein Ghazizadeh from Longin. Regarding the Chahar Shanbe Suri ceremony, an hour ago, Prince Reza Pahlavi also issued a call asking people to refrain from any confrontation with suppression agents while celebrating this festival, and he also warned the officers to avoid confronting the people.
Dear and noble people of Iran, on the eve of the glorious and historic Chahar Shanbe Suri ceremony, I sincerely ask all of you to safely light the fire of peace and life in your local alleys and neighborhoods. With complete vigilance, please refrain from any tension, conflict, or even approaching the regime's oppressive mercenaries in the city streets. The goal of these evil agents is to drag your celebration of light, purity, and life into darkness, wickedness, and death. Do not give them this opportunity. I strongly warn all suppression agents. The people will proudly celebrate the ancient fire festival of Chahar Shanbe Suri peacefully tonight. We demand that you leave the streets, alleys, and residential neighborhoods completely clear from 6 p.m. onwards and do not stand against the citizens. Let this beautiful, traditional night end in absolute peace. The heavy consequences of remaining in the streets and aggressively suppressing the people's joyful, peaceful celebration will rest entirely on your shoulders. Remember, light always triumphs over darkness.
Abdulreza Ahmadi, a Frankfurt-based political analyst and activist, is with us. Mr. Ahmadi, is Prince Reza Pahlavi gauging the atmosphere for a major call to action?
Greetings to you and your viewers. First, I want to congratulate Ali Larijani for his move. And again, another congratulation, because the Iranian nation showed, even with internet outages and all those difficulties, just the images we're seeing show that their resolve, their will, and their coordination with the supreme leader are clearly visible in the streets. What I, at least, gathered is that tonight, considering Ramadan gave a speech last night among, well, the Islamic Republic's suppression forces, practically, the logic of the street tonight can be said to be with the opposition and the Iranian nation. Meaning, if before this, the Islamic Republic had claimed that it would enter a street where there was a protest, it could disrupt the logic of that street, suppress it. Today, we saw that what was at least said by the opposition in previous days, whether it was about coming into the streets, or about confrontation, or about those supports that drones, or in fact air forces, are supposed to provide, has actually happened on the ground. And it can be said that this is a very good sign that in future calls to action, the opposition and the Iranian nation will determine the logic of the street, and not the Islamic Republic anymore.
Please stay right here with us, Mr. Ahmadi. Before we continue, I also want to play a short clip of Empress Fardad Pahlavi's inspiring video message, created specifically for this very Chahar Shanbe Suri celebration.
Grieving families of tens of thousands of brave martyrs of the national revolution are sorrowfully holding their very first traditional Chahar Shanbe Suri celebration without the presence of their cherished loved ones. As a devoted mother, a loving wife, and a proud Iranian, I want to sincerely tell the grieving families of those who tragically lost their precious lives for our beloved homeland that your deep pain and suffering are my own pain, fully shared by the great nation of Iran. Your cherished loved ones are truly the finest children of Iran, and they remain the enduring pride of a wonderfully great and ancient nation. I honor their sacrifice and bravery, and your courage and patience. The ancient national ritual of Chahar Shanbe Suri, a powerful reminder of our ancestors' steadfastness to our rich national tradition and enduring culture, stands as a profound symbol of light's ultimate triumph over the deaths of darkness. This year, I deeply observe this cherished national tradition in solemn memory of the courageous families who are tirelessly seeking justice, and the tens of thousands of brave martyrs of the glorious Lion and Sun Revolution. Young people who, like Siavash, fell innocently to the ground. I firmly believe that the guiding light will always triumph over the encroaching darkness, and the sacred fire of national awareness and unwavering patriotism will remain Iran's eternal guardian. Long live Iran.
We are still with Abdulreza Ahmadi, political analyst and activist from Frankfurt. Mr. Ahmadi, in this very message from Empress Fardad Farahzad, there was also a reference to the casualties of recent protests, while American and Israeli drones and other equipment are to some extent bombing the suppression forces in the Islamic Republic, but we see that they are still armed.
که هنوز اونها مسلح هستند.
Protesting in Iran is not an easy task, at least at this moment. The remnants of the Islamic Republic still exist, and there's this concern for many Iranians. Is that window of opportunity for another big protest, for another big call to action, close? How possible is it, given these remnants of the Islamic Republic? What's your assessment? How close are we to that critical moment?
Yes, I'll just briefly say, look, the function of religious rituals, exactly, traditional rituals is precisely this, bringing people together and creating hope, and correctly choosing this, that national cultural capacity for the movement. In my opinion, it was a smart move, and it did that. But let's get back to what kind of window does this open? Look, the situation in all totalitarian regimes, now in the case of the Islamic Republic, which is also tied to Islamic ideology, it's linked in such a way that small groups can act somewhat autonomously. They can suppress. But the issue is that the mastermind and, well, the head of the octopus has been struck. I don't just mean Ali Khamenei. This has also happened in the middle layers. What you're seeing is a reaction that has become institutionalized within the suppression system itself. Can this expand? Can it broaden itself? In my opinion, no, because day by day, the power of suppression and the power of analysis and the power to create strategy in suppression, as I said in the first part, is diminishing. Now, whether this arrives, well, it depends on those different analytical horizons as to when this will happen. But in my belief, this time isn't very far off. It doesn't mean it's going to be another year. In my opinion, in these coming weeks, maybe a month or two, we can see how the actors who are now active on the international stage are going to change their war strategy. Are they going to enter Iran on the ground, or will they just stay in the air? With these changes, I mean, in fact, if they stay in the air, naturally, it'll be a bit longer. If they stay on the ground, it'll be a different kind of situation. But I hope that in these coming weeks, in fact, those ground conditions, given the sign I mentioned today, will actually become reliable, that the Islamic Republic can no longer ride on or define the logic of the street. In the coming weeks, at most in the coming month, we can see this window where the capacity for a million-strong presence in Iran becomes available again.
Thank you, Abdulreza Ahmadi, political analyst and activist from Frankfurt. Yesterday, Prince Reza Pahlavi announced the formation of a committee called the Transitional Justice Regulations Drafting Committee. Its members are Shireen Ebadi, Iraj Mezdaghi, Layla Rahmani, and Afshin Aliyan, with Shireen Ebadi also chairing it. This committee is set to work on drafting regulations for a court and a truth-finding commission to achieve justice for victims of human rights violations in the Islamic Republic. Afshin Aliyan, professor of law and philosophy of law at Leiden University in the Netherlands, is with us from that very city. Mr. Aliyan, thank you for accepting our invitation. Could you give us a bit clearer picture of what your operational mechanism will be like now? What judicial scope will it have? What laws will it be based on? What rulings might you potentially issue the day after the overthrow of the Islamic Republic?
Greetings to you and your dear viewers across Iran. Look, this is a very important point because when we talk about a transitional period, meaning we want to transition from an authoritarian system to a democratic system and an open society, then there's this issue of, well, what should be done with those who, at the command of politicians, or even the politicians themselves, committed murder or were complicit in the massacre of people. My own doctoral thesis, which I successfully defended in the year 2003, focused comprehensively on South Africa and the nation's profound transition to democracy. Furthermore, its essential comparative basis and the underlying comparative research were also heavily dependent upon the historical findings of South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Today, this is an undeniably important issue happening in Iran, and the prince has clearly showed that not only is the transition handbook being implemented step by step, but we are also rapidly getting closer to the transition, meaning to the final battle. So what specific legal standards are we using? This framework has two distinct parts. One is the Transitional Court, a special court dedicated to prosecuting individuals whose hands are deeply stained with the blood of the Iranian people. For example, Mr. Larijani, if Israel hadn't moved him today, he would undoubtedly be among those who should stand in this transitional court as a key suspect. Or, in other words, prosecuted for devastating crimes against humanity. And well, one might ask, then what specific standards will such a court be based on? It will be firmly based on the comprehensive international standards that currently exist within established international law, alongside the long-standing legal traditions for prosecuting such high-level criminals. But crucially, this does not mean the accused do not have fundamental rights. No, just like in any other legitimate court system, they will also have access to dedicated defense lawyers. They will absolutely retain their basic legal rights to ensure a fair trial. There are four issues. One is the issue of the suspect, their rights and conditions. Another is the issue of the victims, their rights in such a process, and then also how the process itself should take place, and how judgment should be rendered, and the method of judgment. This is one side of the story. Of course, this only relates to individuals who, anyway, killed or severely tortured ordinary protesters. Now, we are frequently talking about those individuals who became tragic victims of the Islamic Republic in recent months and years. But in fact, this systemic abuse was happening much earlier. It was in the 60s, it was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. All of these historical periods, in fact, urgently need to be thoroughly investigated to achieve true justice. On the other hand, there is also a remarkably large group to consider. Those who, well, worked for this government, not as ordinary everyday employees, but those who were actively complicit in the oppressive political issues that this government carried out, the governments of the Islamic Republic, or even the Revolutionary Guard, or the police forces. But importantly, their hands are not stained with the innocent blood of the people. These specific individuals will be officially included in the upcoming Truth-Finding Commission. They will publicly say the absolute truth for everyone to hear, and then they can get, temporary amnesty. Why is it only temporary? Because if it is later discovered that they've lied, they can still be prosecuted. However, if they hadn't lied, if they've honestly told the full truth, their work is done, and they can peacefully live in that same society, reintegrated into Iranian society. The effort we will make, well, not an effort, but our duty, because the prince issued the decree, and all of us accepted it, both Miss Ibadi and I and our other friends. Our duty is, as legal scholars and those who are anyway aware of such matters, we need to create a regulation, on one hand for competent courts, transitional courts to prosecute these individuals, and on the other hand for a truth commission.
This is an important message. I just want to ask you this. You yourself, too,
Please, go ahead.
Doctor, you referred to the issue of South Africa. In South Africa, the approach was more reconciliation-oriented, unlike some other tribunals, like, for example, Nuremberg. Would you have in mind, is it more similar to South Africa's transitional period or Nuremberg after the end of the World War? And in that same context, let me ask you, do you have any idea for maximum sentences? Does something like, for example, the death penalty have a place in your process or not?
Basically, there is no talk of the death penalty, and I highly doubt it would have a place in these matters. The death penalty and torture will absolutely not exist. Extreme retributions won't have a place there. However, this approach is a combination of both the historical Nuremberg model and the restorative justice model used in South Africa. We must acknowledge that there are many stark differences between Iran and South Africa. The severe events that have happened in Iran are of a fundamentally different kind. It is truly a much more horrific kind of reality. And as a result, you can't tell people, like, for example, this Mr. Larijani, who comes and in one night orders the massacre of at least 32,000 people, and maybe up to 60,000 people. You can't tell them, okay, come tell the truth, we'll give you something, we'll give you amnesty. That kind of thing doesn't exist. But at the same time, the vast body of the Islamic Republic, all of them can live in Iran. There's no danger for them. And there are those truth commissions, and they won't have any problems either. However, those who commit crimes must understand that they will be prosecuted, and this work has actually begun. And I received many messages from European politicians with ministers last night after this news spread, and all of them were very happy. They said, well, this shows that you are looking at this transitional period in a civilized manner, and you don't want Iran to become like Syria or Libya, where people just go into the streets and pursue or massacre other people.
Thank you. Afshin Elian, Professor of Law and Philosophy of Law at Leiden University in the Netherlands from this very city. And thank you for being a viewer of tonight's 24 program. You can watch this program again a little later on Iran International's YouTube channel.